And when I got called out for it, it kind of like stopped me in my tracks. And I'm grateful that that happened. But yeah, it stopped me from writing for a few years. So that's the thing that I think of. And it became a real lesson for me, you know, and I pass it on to people so they're aware that, you know, it's like, hey, you know, it's okay for somebody to say something's not great. It doesn't mean you're not a good writer. It means maybe you're hearing something you need to hear.
You're like, how dare you like
Oh, I
insult
was like, oh
Southern
my
ladies
God,
in a
22.
diner.
This won the writing prize at Hofstra. A lot, you know,
Like,
best-selling, Pulitzer nominated writer, you know, like who's, yeah, no, she called me out, and I wasn't able to take it in the moment. I did, but it took me a while before I could say she was right, because it was my worst fear, you know, that somebody was going to say, this isn't what you think it is. But she wasn't saying it was bad. She was just saying, like, who are you?
Right.
And yeah, so now I've made up for that ever since. You know, you learn a lesson. I learn every lesson once, you know. It's like, you make a mistake, you should learn it fast, you know. That's always, to me, the difference. People who kind of are successful in the industry, I find everybody makes mistakes. You know, we all make mistakes. I make each one once, you know, and then you kind of learn. So I've been writing about what I know ever since then.
Right. Well, you did start writing again and you found your way to Hollywood, The Naked Truth, Family Guy. Like, when were you, I mean, look, Family Guy is like one of the most successful shows of all time. Like, at what point in your career did you say, you know, this is real, like I can do this, like, and earn a living? And like, did you have like a big splurge, like when you first said, like, wow, here's like a first big check?
Yeah, I did. I thought, well, the first thing was my first job. Nothing ever felt which was The Naked Truth, which I'm sure most people don't know, but it was a sitcom from the 90s starring Téa Leoni and Holland Taylor, who I adored. I adored both of them. And I got the job. It was actually my first meeting ever. And I got the job in the room during the interview. I knew nothing. I'd only been in LA a few months. I had previously to that, I was a bellman at the Paramount Hotel and in massive debt. And I moved out to LA on a whim. And so I didn't know how anything worked. So I got the job in the room. I was like, I'm in. This is how LA works. And then I found how much I made, which was like, you know, the base salary for a staff writer. And previous to that, you know, I'd been, you know, working for tips. So I was like, I'm rich. You know, I never even had made a salary. So I was like, from now on, when I go to New York, I will never take the subway again, because I had taken the subway and buses for so many years. I was like, I don't ever want to have to do it again. And yes, my splurge was going to be, I will never do that again. And that lasted for maybe a year. Then I was like, what am I doing? Like, the subway is cheap and efficient. I'm like, who do you think you are? You have to take the subway again. So that didn't last very long. But I thought that was my idea of, you know, being successful, not having to take the subway anymore.
That's funny. Well, what about, let's talk about Will and Grace. I mean, where do we even begin? You know, when we mention like one of truly the best TV shows that's ever existed, and has just, I mean, look, you were a writer, you were a producer, EP, showrunner. Like, just what overall top line was like being on Will and Grace for that many years like?
You know, and as another gay man, I think you'll understand this. A gay woman, any queer person, I think, will understand this. I had been working, by the time I got Will and Grace, I don't know, like 7 years maybe in TV. And every show, you know, as I said before, kind of like, you know, I was always writing what I know, but sometimes you have to bend it, right? So I'm writing who I am. I'm writing my what I want to say. I'm writing my voice, but I'm bending it through straight characters a lot of the time. I'm finding the way in. I'm having to find the way in, because I am not, you know, the protagonist in this universe. I am somebody who has to find my path through as a gay man. Will and Grace was so important for me to get, because people even forget at the time there was no show like that on TV where we were, you know, we were the protagonists. You know, it was our universe. The world was seen through our eyes, and we'd never seen it. And also, you know, it was really fucking funny. And getting on it, I really was like, I was, I wasn't on it from the beginning, and I was like, I need to be on this show. I want to be on it so badly. And it was, there weren't a lot of gay writers. I think there was, John and Joni. Max had left by the time I came on the show. So there were, I think for the most part, there were three of us out of maybe 10, 12 writers at different times. And it felt like, oh my God, in writing that show, this is what it must be like for straight people, because we were, it was our world. It was, Will and Jack, and for the most part, Grace and Karen also kind of were gay men, but Will and Jack definitely, they were the heroes of the story. They were the protagonists, and it was our story. And I had never been in a situation before where, and Will and I were similar, similar age. Eric and I are I think there were similarities in us. And so it was even on another level. And yeah, I was like, this must be what it's like to be straight. It was the first time I ever felt that. I was like, how fun. I was like, oh my God, it must be so great for them to be like this all the time, where you don't ever have to kind of, bend around what you're thinking, kind of figure out your way in. It's your world. You're in charge of the world. So it was very liberating, and it was something I knew that, a feeling that I wouldn't forget, what that was like. And I was fortunate that it also happened to me kind of, at a pretty young age. And I was super grateful for that. It was also like a lot of fun, it was a lot of fun to do. But yeah, being a gay man, it very much was a kind of a game changer for me. I just felt like it's nice to feel like this.
Did you have somebody favorite to write for, like out of Will, Grace, Jack, and Karen?
Yeah, Karen. I mean,
could
I
see
loved writing
that.
them all, but Karen, totally.
Karen's fun, right? I mean, they're all
Not to
fun,
say
but
anything. I mean, Karen was great. It's also because Megan, you can only do that with certain characters when the actor is not only so brilliant, but so winning and vulnerable. So Megan was just very human in everything she did. And she has an innate likableness and vulnerability. So she could say anything, no matter how horrible it was. It was always coming through her, and she was so brilliant. So she could say things that, and get away with things that I think in a different actor's hands, that you wouldn't
that
be able to get away with.
that makes sense to me. Do you have like a high or like a story, like a storyline that was your favorite, or some like high or like a favorite episode from all those years?
It's not so much an episode. It's more of a scene, and it was in the last season of the show. I used to like when the show would do more serious episodes and more serious moments, because I felt the show had earned that by being so funny. And for me, I found it interesting when they were being really real and vulnerable, and we weren't so focused on the jokes, because it made you understand how much you actually really cared about these characters. And in one of the last episodes of the series, Will's father died. And they have a wake, and all of the past people that have been on the show too. We always liked to keep recurring characters in the universe of the show. And I loved Blythe Danner, who plays Will's mother. I loved her on the show. And she was always kind of cold, the way we played aloof with Will, the way we played their relationship. So it was interesting. I wanted to do something where we got to see her point of view a little bit, the mother's point of view, not just Will's. And they have a scene in the laundry room where Will kind of breaks down about his father's death a little, and then he's upset with his mother, and he asks her, you've never asked questions about my life. You don't ask, you're not interested in my life. You haven't been interested in my life. And her response is, because you're so private, you never tell us anything about your life. You're so closed off about your life. You don't share with us. You don't share with me. And I loved that scene. It felt very real to me. And sometimes it happens too between gay men and their family members. We feel like we want you to be interested, but we can also not reveal, stuff. So it's kind of like a two-part thing. And it was nice for them to have this real kind of scene together, so you could see her side of it,
Yeah, I do know. What about the opposite? Like anytime where you're like, this jumps the shark, like I'm outvoted here. I don't want to write this, but here we go.
Do you know, I can't remember anything like that. Although the only thing I do remember is we did a live episode in the last season, which was fun. We did one live episode. And then there was a second live episode because the ratings were so good. They wanted to do another. And I was like, let's stop with the one that was good. Let's not do another. It's less special. We shouldn't do another. So I was outvoted on that. We did do another live episode. And I don't remember the second one. So there you go. I just remember the first one.
I don't really remember the second one either, but that
yeah,
doesn't mean
the first
anything.
one was super fun and it was great. But the second one I don't even remember, but I know we did it. And I was like, okay.
You're right. You're like, listen, a live episode is not easy.
Okay,
like, let's not tempt fate.
I was like, exactly. But yeah, I'm sure it was fun.
What about, do you have a favorite like recurring like guest star or just even a guest star that came on for a one episode visit?
Yeah, the guest stars, there were a lot of guest stars on the show. I loved when Britney Spears came on. She was actually so lovely and so game. And it was during that time, I think, where she was getting it was around the time where they were giving her shit in the press on ridiculously, that now we see how cruel that was to her. And I loved her when she was on the show. She was sweet and she was funny. And the episode was funny. She was really good. I thought she was terrific. I loved when Jennifer Lopez was on. She was also game, super funny, super lovely. And Gene Wilder, who's since passed away. I've always